I am just going to say it. IRS audits are not fun. It's not fun going through records. It's not fun having your tax returns scrutinized. It's not fun having to respond to arbitrary deadlines. If your tax return is pulled for audit, the process has to be managed, and you need to have a plan for the audit. This video will provide an overview of IRS audits and provide tips for managing and surviving the audit. Before getting into the process, I want to first address a few common questions about IRS audits. One question we often get is whether a tax attorney is needed for an IRS audit. And the answer is it depends. It depends on what you have at risk, the value of your time, and the value of offloading the stress. If the potential tax bill or stress is more than the cost of a tax attorney, it may make sense to hire a tax attorney. Since we're talking about it, let's also consider the cost. The cost of IRS audit representation varies, as some audits require more work than others, and some tax attorneys are more experienced and efficient than others. At our firm, we have extensive experience in handling IRS audits of all sizes, from Fortune 500 companies to individual taxpayers. With that said, most IRS attorneys work on an hourly basis, with smaller audits costing a few $1,000s and larger audits costing more. Note that we offer a free consultation to provide an estimate based on your situation. So if you want a more precise answer to this, please call us. We also need some background here. There are different types of audits, including correspondence audits, office audits, field audits, and large case audits. The IRS handles each type different than others. Let's go through each type. Number 1. Correspondence audits. These are audits where you exchange mail with the IRS. The IRS sends you a notice and you respond by mail. Number 2. Office audits. Office audits are in-person audits where you are asked to bring in records to the IRS office. These are usually handled by lower-level employees, and they are often one-day occurrences. You bring in your records or you don't. If you don't, the IRS adjusts your return. Number 3. Field audits. These are what you think of in terms of audits. These are handled by an IRS revenue agent, and the agent will go through several issues on your return. These are the types of audit that this video will address. Number 4. Large case audits. The IRS audits most Fortune 500 company taxpayers every single year. There are different rules for these audits, which are beyond the scope of this video. For field audits, the length and rigor of the audit can vary depending on the size of the taxes at issue and complexity of the tax return, and the level of cooperation you provide. Anywhere from 3 months to several years is common. Here are the most common steps in an IRS field audit. The IRS audit will typically start with an IRS audit letter. This letter is typically sent after the IRS agent has reviewed your case file and determined that he or she wants to conduct an audit. The case file may or may not even have a copy of your tax return in it yet. You can use this to your advantage, as you have all of the information at this point, and you control the information. The letter will typically ask you to call the IRS to schedule an interview, or it may even propose an interview date. You usually do not want to meet at your home or office, so pick some other location. This interview is usually done as part of the opening conference. This is the first meeting and sometimes the only meeting. The IRS uses it to explain the audit process, to learn about you and your records, etc. You should be asking a lot of questions here and listening more than talking if possible. The IRS will then issue document requests. These requests can ask for documents or even explanations. Your job is to respond by providing the information or not, depending on the circumstances. The auditor may also request a tour of a business location or office. You may or may not have to grant this request. Eventually, the IRS will issue an audit report. They may discuss this with you first, but they do not always do so. You may just get the report in the mail. The IRS is supposed to offer a group manager's closing conference. These can be helpful in some limited cases. Absent any changes to the IRS position, if you disagree, you may have the right to an administrative appeal or the right to litigate your case. We address these topics in other videos. That's an overview of IRS audits in a nutshell. There are quite a few procedural rules and strategy to consider with IRS audits. Please know that it is up to you to enforce your rights. If you can't do that or won't be able to do it, you should seriously consider hiring a tax attorney. We have handled hundreds, if not thousands, of IRS audits. Give us a call if you want to discuss your case.